Cobra Kai just wrapped up its second season on YouTube, and it's getting ready to come back for a third. I'm Zach Laws of Gold Derby, and with me now are the show's creators, Josh Heald, Jon Hurwitz, and Hayden Schlossberg. Gentlemen, first of all, tell us why you had the idea, the initiative to bring the Karate Kid legend to television, or I should say to YouTube television.
Yeah, well, this was a long time coming. The three of us have all been friends for over 20 years, and as children, we all fell in love with the Karate Kid movies separately, and then together we would talk about them like crazy when we were younger, and even in our early 20s, when we would all gather around and watch the movie, we had this fascination with Johnny Lawrence, this bully character that was sort of this universal bully for people all over the world, and started talking about what happens to a bully, where does a bully come from. And it started percolating back then, but fast forward to just a few years ago, we started seeing sort of the landscape of long form narrative on television and started thinking, you know what, that story, the idea of doing a Cobra Kai centric project would work really well in this kind of series, because you'd be able to delve into the life and mind and history of Johnny Lawrence, but also see Daniel LaRusso present day, what's going on there, and create a whole new generation of Karate Kids. So we decided to find out if we could get the rights to Karate Kid. We pursued them. We tracked them down. We were able to get them, and took it from there, and ended up convincing Ralph and Billy to come on board. And we were pitching it all over town, and YouTube just stepped up and immediately saw the vision and offered us to do a full season of the show without even reading a script. And here we are.
What is the special quality that those films have that gives them longevity and makes people like yourselves and your viewers want to find out what happens to these characters as they've gone into middle age?
I think that there's universal truths in the original Karate Kid. In some ways, it is a time capsule of the 1980s, and that's where some fun nostalgia kicks in on our show. But really, what we love about that movie are the themes of bullying, the effect of not having, the perfect family situation or moving to a new town, the challenges that teenagers face, and then needing that mentor. I think what connects with people of every age, of every generation, is there's always, something that is bullying you in your life, and you have to overcome that. And that is a story that I think works for every generation. And so we looked at, there's also the cultural differences between Mr. Miyagi and Daniel LaRusso that we wanted to bring back on our show. It's, Johnny Lawrence and a kid from Ecuador, and who at first are kind of oil and water, but they really kind of grow to, love each other, and these strong mentor-student relationships. Underdog stories. These are things that stand the test for time.
So then talk a bit about how the show has grown and changed with the second season, and in terms of also character relationships and plots and things like that.
Yeah, I mean, the first season, we had to kind of bring the audience into our vision for where these characters were 35 years later in terms of, Daniel LaRusso and Johnny Lawrence. And through catching up with them, we start to meet this next generation and see, Daniel's family. He's got a daughter and a son. Johnny meets this kid. Oh, where did they go to high school? And gradually, while getting back into the Johnny and Daniel storyline, you're learning about and becoming endeared to and rooting for these kids, and seeing that the next generation in the Valley are going through a lot of the same things that Johnny and Daniel were dealing with back in the day. And by the end of season one, you're at a place where you have so many characters and so many conflicting emotions in terms of who you're rooting for and why you might be rooting for them. And there's no right and wrong. We wanted to bring our audience to a place where you didn't know whether to root for Miguel or Robbie when you get to the end of the first season. The second season, picks up with obviously the arrival of Sensei Kreese, that other looming figure from the Karate Kid experience. And what does that do to, drive a further wedge between Johnny and Daniel while tempers are just rising? And you have all these kids that now know karate or are learning karate and are getting better, but are still dealing with, personal issues with each other. And it was really fun just to see those worlds, how high we could kind of turn up the gas, on the flame under them until, something had to give. And that was the big explosion that we took things to for season 2.
For you guys as creators, I'm curious if you feel in this second season a bit more ownership over it, in the sense that you're adapting something that's based on a beloved film from Oscar-winning filmmaker John Avildsen. Does it feel a bit more like your own thing, or did it always feel like that?
I think it's always sort of felt that way. It was, we had a clear vision on how to sort of take that source material and modernize it and continue the story. So from the beginning, it's always going to be, derived from the original. And even every season that we work on it, we think back to the original movies, and we still care about the feels and the emotion of those movies. But from day one with Cobra Kai, we're like, the reason why this show is called Cobra Kai is it is its own thing. We're already going in the back door and bringing our own sort of flair to it, while trying to respect this franchise that we love and people all around the world love.
Well, do you perhaps feel less intimidated? Did you ever feel intimidated about living up to fan expectations of the show?
We just try to live up to our own expectations. I mean, we are the fans. We're the ones that are ready to tear us apart if we don't do a good job. So, we're always at every stage, whether it's writing, shooting, and editing, making sure that this is something that we would love. And by we mean, fans of this original movie. At the same time, we're also writing for an audience that doesn't know the movie. That's one of the reasons why I think the show has been successful, even amongst fans, is fans can tell when they're just being serviced versus actually being engaged in a story. And I think to engage people in a story, you actually have to, create something that has, tension and conflict. And, to do that, you can't rely on callbacks. You can't rely on characters. Yes, when an original character for one of the Karate Kid movies enters our world, we know that's going to be a fun moment for fans. But it has to also work dramatically if you didn't know those original movies. And so we're always trying to just make a piece of entertainment that we would love. And when those are the standards you hold yourself to, everything else, we didn't know how it was going to be received. We just knew that we wanted to see a continuation. We love these characters, and if we loved it, hopefully other people would, and luckily, that's what happened.
Speaking of standards, I wanted to ask you about some of your Emmy submissions for this year, and I just want to make sure I got this right. You're submitting the 5th episode of the season, All In, for writing and directing, and you're also submitting the finale, No Mercy, for directing as well. Is that right?
That's correct.
That's correct, yes.
Why did you guys choose those episodes? What stands out about them?
We always, in both seasons, and, we're writing the 3rd season right now, we look at episodes, really it's episodes 1, 5, and 10 as, our fence posts about, and in terms of where we're going. And if you look at season 1 in particular, episode 5, that could be the season finale of a show. We've introduced this kid, and he's getting bullied, and he has stakes, and we've introduced, Robbie on the periphery, and so much happens in that episode where he takes down the villains, and something you feel like that's the whole season journey. We get to a mid-season finale kind of feel, and that really worked season 1 in terms of not letting the audience get too far ahead of where we were going, and being able to have big wins and big set pieces halfway through. So we look at episode 5 in both seasons as this midpoint where a lot of storylines are clashing. Some storylines are ending and they're landing and they're resolving, while other fires are starting to burn brighter, and they just feel bigger. Whereas episode 10 in both seasons is a blowout. It's a bonanza. It's, everything that has been building all season for season 2. Every one of those individual kind of personal vendettas and stories comes to a head in one moment where the match is lit and the fuse goes off, and you are just in a riot essentially, but you understand where each punch and where each kick is coming from because we've laid them in the whole season.
I was going to say, yeah, both episodes 5 and 10 are very intricate. There's a lot of plotting that's going on. A lot of storylines are all coming to a culmination. And from a writing standpoint, it's the challenge of weaving all of this together into one tapestry that's working really well. And when you look at episode 5 this year, there's so much going on, whether it's the Johnny storyline, in terms of sort of, coming to grips with what's going on with Daniel LaRusso training his son. Meanwhile, Daniel, ends up having his, Miyagi's car and the Medal of Honor all gets damaged, and all this stuff that are separately happening all weaves together with what's going on with the children and the conflict there. All of these storylines dovetail together into this big kind of climactic moment at the end of episode 5. Episode 10 is just, for us, the a massive.
It was probably. I mean, and we've directed movies before. This was the biggest challenge that we've faced. One thing that directors all know is that you get judged on your final work, but the real talent is in all the disasters and things that are happening and the fires that are getting put out behind the scenes. And the reality is, our show doesn't have the big budget of what the Karate Kid used to have in terms of time and resources. And it's up to us as directors to try to get as much bang for our buck in terms of time and setups as possible. And when you watch that last episode, we know we're impressed because we know we only had a couple days to shoot this gigantic, climactic, high school battle royale, which, the whole time we were looking at movies like West Side Story and The Outsiders as classic teen, rival fights. And
there were so many, I was going to say there were so many emotional stakes that were tying together amidst this crazy, the fight that we have in there, this 8 or 9 minute long fight, is unlike something that you typically see on television. It's when we watched that episode for the very first time after it sort of got, put together by our editor and was starting to look what it was. We're like, there's nothing like this on television. This feels very different than other things that you're seeing on television right now. And as a result of it feeling so different and so fresh, it was definitely something we wanted to put forward that we love for everybody to see that episode, because it really shows what our show is made of.
Yeah, really any episode from our series, if we're doing it right, is, could be put up and eligible. We try to really have a weave through the emotion, the comedy, the action, the engagement and the empathy with these characters. And we want the whole thing to feel like one cohesive, Karate Kid storyline. And you're naturally going to have those bigger, bolder, more explosive elements, at the end of the season, those big, tiers and the 5 to 7, area. And there's just, we look at it as one big project, and we're really happy that, you can divvy it up and kind of, exalt certain moments.
I should say this interview is going to be on YouTube, and that's where your show is. So any Emmy voters who are watching this, you can go watch those episode submissions in any episode as soon as you're done watching this. It's one stop shopping. You guys did break into the Emmy race for your first season for the stunts. What did that mean for you guys? Because I mean, the fights, like you say, they're very intricate, and they're really the heart of the show. So what did it mean to see your stunt choreographer recognized in that way?
I mean, it's great. Like I was saying before about the challenges of directing the finale, that those challenges fall on our stunt and fight choreographers as well. And Hiro Koda and Janelle Kerfman, his wife, it's a coordinator duo that we have there. Just they have to put in so much effort, because we don't have, we're really trying to, put on a spectacle at times of martial arts. And yet, our show at the time was patterned as, a 22-minute comedy. And so, the onus falls on them to figure out how to, elevate, the words that we have on the page in terms of, okay, kick here, punch here. We know who wins. We know how the story develops, but still, there's so much that needs to be interpreted, and they do such an amazing job with that. And
what you have with this show that you don't have with a lot of, certainly not too much else, if anything, in the half-hour space, is that you have stunt coordinators who know every martial arts discipline and are able to apply those to stunts in a way where it's a show about martial arts. Typically in another show, if you're seeing someone take a fall or a car flip or something where someone has to be in a fight, you might see aspects of martial arts be engaged in a moment of, okay, this is just two people coming to a head. But with this, where the whole backdrop and setting is this real kind of battle of philosophies between, the Cobra Kai, which is more, Tang Soo Do martial arts, and Miyagi-Do, and be able to actually teach the actors in a different style. So when you have those big moments, you're actually seeing the real deal on screen. That's what really makes it special for us to see them work.
It's cool. Like when you watch the fights, the Miyagis, they move in like circles. They're trying to evade. It's all about self-defense. Cobra Kai's, it's just like, it's straight ahead right at you. And so the characterization that's put into the choreography, I think, is what takes it to the next level beyond just, it looks cool.
But we were so thrilled when Hiro was nominated last year, and this year it's taken up tenfold. And, we're hoping to see both Hiro and Janelle not only nominated, but hopefully taking it home this year.
Before I let you go, let me ask you guys, you are working on season 3 right now. And I should say our viewers almost got a sneak preview of that because we had to move the camera away from the plot points and beats of that. Can you give us a sense of without spoiling anything, I mean, where you guys are going with this 3rd season?
Yeah, what we can say is, if you've watched the 2nd season of the show, we ended on a very intentional but very big downbeat where nobody is too happy rolling into season 3 in terms of what has happened. You have a massive chasm, in the martial arts community of our show and in the interpersonal relationships of our show, where everybody is going to have to pick themselves up and rehabilitate and rebuild. And you need to get your characters back to a place where you believe that they're, they can see their eye on the prize and you're engaged with that, because now that we've done what we've done at the end of season 2, which I don't want to, spoil by calling it out specifically, we have to answer for that. And we have to answer for everybody's reaction and response to that. And once we do that, then we can really get back.
It's kind of like it was our Empire Strikes Back, and you're leaving the audience in a frustrated, like, I got to see what happens next place. And so all we'll say is we want we don't want to keep that frustration going. We're looking forward to people finding out how those things resolve in the aftermath. But then obviously, that has to come to a head at some point.
Yeah, we always say that, season 2, these were Johnny and Daniel both felt that they were trying to do the right thing. And sometimes when you do the right thing, things don't work out for you. The question in season 3 is, how do you respond to that?
Well, gentlemen, thank you all so much. Certainly look forward to season 3. Congratulations on your work.
Thank you so
much. Very much. Appreciate it.
And thanks to all of you at home for watching. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe button below. Make sure you visit us at goldderby.com for